Hello everyone, today I'm going to show how to prepare a column chromatography with the silica gel column. So first you have to take some sand um, inside the column, so pour some sand in the column. So it will be like around 2 inch um, from the bottom of the column. So in many cases column have the column freight, so in that case you don't need to use the sand, but here since this column design is different, so we use sand in the bottom of the column. So it will be like 2 inch or 1.5 inch, and this column size is selected for around 12 to 15 gram of the crude. So based on your crude amount you can select or choose the column, but the system will be the same here. In this column radius, like since I have the 12 around 15 gram of the crude compound, so I choose this column size. So here after addition of the sand, then I will add some solvent. So based on your solvent you can use normally hexane ethyl acetate. If your solvent pair is hexane ethyl acetate, then you can start with hexane. If your solvent system is DCM, acetone, or any other solvent system, then you can use DCM first, dichloromethane. So here in this system I'm going to use dichloromethane and acetone mixture. So I'm using the dichloromethane solvent. So once I added the sand inside the column, then I will add a little bit of the solvent to soak the sand inside the column. So after that, a little bit more solvent, so that like the all sands get soaked with the solvent. So with the little gentle tap, so you can leave it for a couple of minutes so that all solvent can pass through the sand. And even you can put some air pressure also from the top so that it can go. And sometimes since I didn't add any other silica or anything here, so just to make the sands equal distributed and same layer, I will I can do some tap and also sometimes like little vortex so that the all sands get like same level. Because if you have the uneven level of the sand or any silica, then your compound will give you the tailing. So here that's what I am doing, slowly, little vortex or like some tap on there. I'm just doing some vortex and gentle tap to make the sand layer evenly distributed. Once it is ready, now I will add some solid silica. So in many cases people do silica slurry first and then add silica slurry, but in that case, sometimes to maintain the silica layer even, so in that case, it is tough, so I will add some solid silica inside this column, and then I will adjust the silica slurry later. So here I'm adding some solid silica, and not too much of it, just little bit, just to make a layer on the sand I added previous time. So after addition, just let the silica goes down to the on top of the sand. While it is going, like make a little bit gentle tapping on the column, so it will go down and it will be like soaked with the solvent while it is going. Then make some silica slurry in a beaker. And another thing, there is a combination you can take, like how much silica you are going to take for a column. So normally 40 to 50 times of the crude amount. Suppose you have the crude 10 gram, so 50 times is like 500 gram. So 500 gram silica means it is normally the density of the silica assumed as like 0.5 So in that case, you know the density equal to mass over volume, so you can make volume equal to mass over density. So mass is like 500 gram and density is zero point 0.5, so it will be like 1000 milliliter. It's a solid silica. So in that case, you can take a big beaker and then you can add the solvent and the silica and then make a slurry of that silica, and then with the help of a glass rod. And here I'm making the silica slurry using certain amount of the silica volume. So before adding the solvent, you can add the silica, and with the rough volume from the beaker, you can measure like how much volume you're taking this, how much volume of the silica you have taken here in the beaker. Then add the solvent, and after adding the solvent, use the glass rod to make the slurry. um, and once you have the silica slurry ready, then you can pour it from the top of the column by using a funnel. Carefully, don't disturb the uh, layer inside the column. So that's why I added a little bit solid silica while there were some solvent inside it, and so that my sand layer doesn't get disturbed. So initially I added sand, and that layer should be like evenly distributed and the same layer. And then I added some silica while there was a solvent. Now while I'm pouring this silica slurry, it will not disturb the sand layer anymore because there were already some silica inside the column. So I'm adding the silica slurry already in the column. Here you can see, and now I can take the column out, and I can wash out the column with some solvent, also wash out the silica from the beaker with some more solvent, and you can add all those remaining silica with the solvent inside the column, and then wash out the column walls and sides with the solvents by using a solvent bottle. And here I'm using the remaining silica inside the column, and keep eye on that, like you will pour such way like so that the column doesn't overflow. So here whatever I had, I just added everything inside the column, and now just keep it for some times, let the silica settle down. Sometimes you can gently tap on the column body so that the silica can go inside. And while the silica getting settled down, so you can open the column knob and let it dry out, the solvent not completely dry out, at least 1 inch or 2 inch of the solvent should be on top of the silica. So do not use too much of air pressure. So while you are doing that, just with this bottle, try to wash out the side of the column so that the stacked silica can add up inside the column. So there your funnel should have some silica, and also wall has some silica. So wash out those and take out the funnel also, and wash the side of the column so that all the silica is stacked with the side of the column can go to the main body of the silica pack. So once you washed out, and there must be some there must be some solvent added here, so that solvent need to be dry out, not completely with the silica. So while you open the column knob from the bottom, and try to, you can give also some air pressure from the top, so it will dry little quick, but do not dry out completely from silica. So here I'm letting the solvent going down and silica also getting settled down in the column as a pack. So while it is happening, um, I will give a little bit air pressure from the top. So here I'm attaching the air pressure now a little bit, and be careful to put the air pressure. Do not push it too hard, or like kind of give some release of the air in the second valve. You can see there is another tube where uh, air can be adjusted, so I'm doing that now, and like very little air pressure. So with this air pressure, it will decrease the solvent from the column, and it will go um, on top of the silica. So once it is around 2 inch from the silica, then you can stop the air pressure. So once it is done with that, then we are going to add some sand on top of the silica, because that silica from the top and silica layer in the down up to the sand, that should be a totally one body pack. There shouldn't be any uneven distribution. So once it is done, see here I'm drawing like the column, and you can see the mark. So that mark cannot be like inclined or like convex shape. Like this shape cannot be the proper silica layer, so it is not acceptable. That inclined, not acceptable. This is acceptable. So your silica layer should be like just straight, otherwise you will see the mixture of compound coming out. So make sure that always you keep that same level of the silica. So here my solvent system is going down. Now I'm going to add some sand. So here like you can, I normally use 3 finger. So when solvent is 3 finger layer from the silica, then I add the I take out the air from the column and I add the sand on top of this silica. And during addition of the sand, make sure that you are not abruptly adding the sand on top of the silica, because that sand can penetrate the silica and disturb the layer. So add the sand very slowly and gently so that it cannot disturb the silica layer. The silica layer should be like same and even distributed. So by tapping and slowly pouring sand on top of the silica can give you the layer. And that is also another thing I want to mention. Since I was using some air pressure, that air pressure also helped the silica inside to pack tightly, so that when you are adding the sand, that sand will not penetrate the silica layer, and it will make another layer of the on top of the silica. So once the sand layer is there, then you can gently tap the column to make the silica layer same, sand layer same. And here the sand layer should be like around 2 finger, or like 2 inch, not 2 inch, 1.5 inch is enough. Based on your compound and the size of the column, it can be like this. So 2 to 3 fingers sand is enough for that. And this sand, top sand, is only for protecting the silica layer, so that that silica layer cannot be like inclined or like parabolic shape. It should be like same uh, same layer, like it's like evenly distributed, and it shouldn't be inclined. So here I'm taking out the column out. Sometimes when the column in your hand and the slow gently tapping can give you the even shape of the sand on top of the silica, so it will help not to be slanted your silica layer. So once it is done, then try to dry out little more solvent from the column, and make sure that column is attached with the clamp uh, tightly and gently, and so that the column doesn't fall down and break. So once it is done, then I'm making my crude sample ready. Like I will reduce this solvent like up to sand, because even if that solvent dry out up to sand, still it is okay because it is not drying out the silica. That means already that solvent goes through that silica, and that silica is already equilibrated. So now you can see my crude is dissolved here with the DCM. So normally do not use too much of the DCM just to dissolve your compound. Since my column is big column and crude amount is good amount of the crude, like around 15 to 18 gram, so I had to use that much of DCM. But sometimes for the small column you can choose minimum amount of the solvent which can dissolve your crude completely. There shouldn't be any like solid remaining to dissolve. So once it is dissolved, then with the pipette I will add my compound inside the column um, from from the vial. So all of my compound will be added on top of the sand. Remember that even if it is not initially distributing evenly, it's okay because on the sand it's fine, but ultimately that 2-inch sand layer will make the um, will make the good distribution of the loading compound in the silica almost same time once it goes to the silica. So here y- you can add all the compound. Try to add uh, in the middle of the column so that it don't touch the wall of the glass, like column glass. So add all of the compound inside the column, and uh, so here I'm adding, and then I will add a little bit of the solvent to wash out my remaining crude in the glass vial. So here uh, you can see like how it looks like once all the compounds are added. So here I'm washing out my remaining compound in the vial, and sometimes you can use some pipette to dissolve everything there, and then you can take out your dissolved crude compound with the pipette, and then you can add in the column again. So once all the compounds are added here, then you can continue your column with the mobile phase. So here my mobile phase is DCM first, and then slowly I will increase the polarity by using acetone in with the DCM. So based on the compound polarity, you can choose different solvents. Normally, very common solvent is hexane ethyl acetate, but this is a different compound and highly polar compound, and also it gives tailing. And luckily in this compound I have a top impurity spot and there is a good gap, and then my compound tailed in the bottom. So once I get the top impurity out, then I can wash out my compound from that column. So and up to that time I have to monitor all the compound fraction, like the collection fraction with the TLC. So when I will see my compounds are out, like impurities are out, then I will increase the polarity of the solvent and I can wash out my compound. And next some part of my video you will listen some air and also the hood sound that will be kind of disturbing. But in that time when I was doing, I kind of explained some parts so you can understand that part. But just I'm sorry for the sound because I couldn't remove that sound from that real time doing column. So here you can see my crude loading in the column. So now I am just kind of giving some air pressure so that the solvent is going, as well as also the compound will go to the silica. So do not give too much of the air pressure, just slowly, just to remove the solvent and load the compound or absorb the compound on the top of the silica in that time. So here you can see that the compound is going down, even passing the sand, then it is staying on the close top of the silica, and you'll see a layer will be generating next to the sand, in between the sand and the silica. So here, once all the solvent is gone, then I will pour my mobile phase. Because if you have this um, crude solution here, and now if you add the solvent, like low good amount of solvent, then the whole crude will be dissolved in the all of the solvent, and in that case you will not get pure compound while you are purifying, because that will be a big band of the compound, and it will be like kind of mixture of all compounds and impurities. So that's important part, this is very crucial part here. So you have to dry out the total solvent up to the sand. Remember, you are not drying out your silica. So here, once you are done with the solvent dry out from the sand, then you can add your solvent mobile phase on top of the sand. In that case it will be okay. So while this solvent is going dry out, in between this time, make sure you are making your mobile phase. So you can see on top of the sand the solvent is going down, and once that solvent is done with the sand, make sure that silica is not drying. Now I made the mobile phase, and on top of the sand I will add the mobile phase, and my compound crude solution already absorbed in the silica. That means it passed the sand. So on top of the sand, now I can add my solvent. This is very crucial. Remember that don't keep any crude solution on top of the sand. Just make sure that that pass through the sand, and then you can add the solvent, and that solvent will not be like dissolved with the crude solution. So that solvent will pass your compound more through the silica after passing the sand. So this is the very basic and common way to prepare your silica gel column for the separation. And now I will continue collecting the fractions in different Erlenmeyer flask based on the column size. You can choose different size of the Erlenmeyer flask. Even sometimes you can choose the test tubes to collect the fractions. Since my column is like big amount, around 15 to 20 gram crude, so I am going to collect the fractions on in 250 milliliter aluminum flask. And here I'm mixing my solvent, and now I'm adding the solvent in my column again, like to make it full, and then I will start collecting. So once it is start collecting the different fractions, and I will do TLC for all of the fractions I will collect. Here I will show how to do the TLC of the fractions, and how to check when to start your um, fractions fractions of the compound. So I hope you understand the preparation of the column. In this is called wet preparation. So there is another style of column preparation that is called solid loading preparation. Once I get the time, I'll try to show that one also, to make the solid loading column preparation. So here you can see that I'm collecting the compound in different aluminum flasks. So each aluminum flask will be collected around 100 to 150 milliliter of the fractions, and then I will start doing TLC. And once I see the TLC is showing my compound, then I will start collecting differently, and I will collect those fractions have the my compound spot. I will start doing rotoweb to dry out the solvent and to collect my compound. And once 6 or 7 aluminum flask is done collection, then I can start TLC. Here you see the band of the compound is coming down. So this yellow or orange color band is my compound, and on top of this band there is an impurity band. So make sure that this layer doesn't disturb too much, because if it cross the silica layer, so your compound load will be disturbed. In that case you will come up with like impurity, compound with impurity. See, there is a two band, there is one band here and there is another band. My compound band is this, and those are impurity. So I will run the solvent until my impurity is coming out. So once I know that my impurity is coming out, everything, then I can increase the solvent polarity to flash out all of my compound. So that's what I'm now doing. So now I'm collecting the first top fractions by using the solvent. Initially you can use like low polar solvent, and then you can slowly increase the polarity. This is acetone. So we will use one capillary tube. This is called capillary tube. If you can see, this is capillary tube. So we will wash with the acetone, and each and every fraction we will put in the TLC like it is spotting. Just touch it and take it up. Do not hold it for a long time. In that case the circle will be bigger. So touch it and take it up quickly, then solvent will be evaporated quickly, and again do the same thing. So if you see, like, touch it and take it up. I see it go up. Okay, then wash it. Now I'm taking crude. So use the crude here. Now it is ready to put in the TLC chamber. So in the TLC chamber, I'll run the solvent system, that is DCM and acetone, mixture of DCM and acetone. It depends on the compound to compound. Like if your compound is too
polar, then you have to change other solvent. So here for my compound it will be DCM versus acetone. So 4% acetone in 96% DCM. So now I will run this TLC plate in that system. So here is the DCM. DCM dichloromethane. And it is acetone. Normally take 10 milliliter. We make 10 milliliter solution for the TLC chamber. So to make the TLC chamber, there is nothing complicated. Just you can take an 80 milliliter beaker, or is it 80? 100 milliliter beaker. So yeah, 100 milliliter beaker. So pour it here, and you need a tweezer. So here is the tweezer, and do not touch the TLC plate with your finger. With the tweezer, just take the tip of this, and then put the TLC in the chamber, little bit inclined. Do not put like straight, because if you make little inclined, so it will be easy to climb up the TLC. Like solvent will feel easy to climb up. Another thing is, make sure that the line shouldn't go down the solvent. So it should be a little bit up of the solvent. That's fine. Because if your line is immersed down, so from the line your crude compound also can mix up with the solvent, and it will contaminate the whole thing. So every time you put the TLC, make sure that the solvent layer should be down the line. So now it is called TLC developing. So it is that solvent is moving, and it will be done. Like when it reach close to the tip, like do not wait until the whole TLC. Take it out just before it goes to the top. Okay, let it be run. Okay, see the solvent layer reach almost close to top. So before reaching the top, I will take it out, and I will keep it like this, like horizontal, because the remaining amount of the solvent should be evaporated with the air. Sometimes we use also the air from the heating gun, but all time heating gun is not be used, because sometimes compound can be break down. So just air, and once it is done, then we are going to use UV lamp to observe what is the situation here. So I can turn off the light to understand carefully. So the middle one is the crude. So I am concerned with the top spot. You see the top one, the bigger, not bigger one, on the top. This is the impurity. So once I get the impurity out, so this bottom one is my compound. So I can flash out my compound. So that's how it will work. Yep. So by this way, like all of my fraction will be checked, unless I will get my compound in my spot. So see, I believe this is my compound, and it is normally increasing, going down. But in the top, once my compound is gone, then I will flash out my compound.